Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 24th meeting for the Planning Board. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Nation. I have a few announcements that I regularly review at this point. The emergency exits are to your left and right. Restrooms are out the back and to the left. And please make sure, if you haven't already, sign the attendance sheet on the table as you come in the room. There are business cards back there in case you need contact information for the planning department, and also a copy of any resolutions that we will be reading tonight along with the agenda. Please silence your cell phones. It's disruptive to those who are trying to present before the board and distracting if you don't. So, and also if you have any conversations you'd like to have, please take them out of the room and close the doors behind you so that it doesn't disrupt any presentations or questioning that's going on. So, meeting minutes. Do we have the 11th of October? Did anyone have any questions or comments?
Nope, all set.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of those meeting minutes.
I'll move.
Second.
30 seconds after Al's motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Correspondence received. Other than the application information we received over the last 2 weeks, nothing public related. Board committee updates. Town board. Is Drew here? Yep.
Good evening, Drew Cusimano, Victor Town Board. And just to let you know, Kim, if you'd like to add anything to what I have to say, come on up.
Drew, lift the mic up a little bit.
Yeah. Really just a few things. We had our meeting, regular town board meeting last evening. We had 4 different public hearings, one of which related to the commercial district that we spoke of at the last meeting. It sounded like, some of the feedback and discussion that was had at this board was discussed in, just very general terms. And we did feel that it certainly warranted some more conversation. So that public hearing was left open, and I think that there would be some plans to, likely meet with the mall, understand a little bit of what their future desires might be, and really take a little bit more of a look at the PDD versus the commercial district, and certainly working through West to do so. So I appreciate those comments last time. 7200 Rawson Road.
All right, before you get into
Yeah.
that, regarding that, we were looking at some correspondence. I think Scott sent it forward from Henrietta. They utilize an overlay district for the commercial zoning. So I think that would be something that we'd also ask the town board to take a look at or consider as well. Seemed like a pretty good idea.
Yeah, thank you. The second public hearing had to do with the 7200 Rawson Road project. Certainly there had been quite a bit of community feedback, particularly from the residents in the adjoining neighborhoods across the street of Rawson. The developer, I think to a large degree through BME Associates, who presented, and Jeff Morrell, presented some really good changes to that project that at least, I think for me personally, made it a lot more palatable. Me personally, I'd like to see residential in that area along Rawson versus light industrial. I live in that area. I travel that daily, and I think that properly done residential really would meet the needs of that area a little bit better than light industrial. So from that perspective, I've supported that, along with the changes they proposed last night. I think I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with that. They eliminated the 8 single-family homes that really we had some concern with line of sight coming around Rawson Road, and they as well dropped the total number of units from 61 to 59. They eliminated the 5 bank units and went to 3s and 4s. They created 2 entry points, which I know from an emergency services perspective is helpful. They increased the setback from the roadway. I believe edge of road to the first unit would be 75 feet, so they extended that a little bit as well. So I think town board-wise, we were feeling a lot more comfortable with that, and had given them some informal direction of, I think we're going in the right direction. So I was happy to see that. We had our public hearing and then subsequently adopted our 2024 budget. Very comparable tax rate-wise to what we're seeing this year. I think it's going to come right around the, $1.70 per thousand. No dramatic changes, really. The only thing that we reduced as far as our little bit of speculation on mortgage interest and the reduction of that. So our anticipated $600,000, we dropped down to $400,000 in the anticipation that we're not going to see the same type of mortgage tax coming in next year. The last public hearing related to our special assessments, sewer and lighting, and I think that was relatively straightforward. Only other comment I'd like to offer is our dog park project's well underway at Harlan Fisher Park. I believe fencing and concrete, some of the infrastructure starting to go in there. So if you have a chance, take a look. Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Kim?
So your next meeting, and your only meeting in November, will be November 14th, starting with a public hearing for Acre Riding Ring at 1578 State Route 444. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 160-foot by 70-foot riding arena for horses. The second public hearing will be for the Glazer in-ground pool at 204 Miles Cutting Lane. The applicant is requesting approval to install a gunite pool and spa, a patio area, a dining area, and a fence, and that is in the LDD district. And then the third public hearing will be for Lightcoms. It's an expansion to their property located at 7321 State Route 251. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a 20,000 square foot building with associated utilities and 71 new parking spaces. And then any carryovers from tonight? Any questions?
Thanks, Kim.
Yep.
Okay, we have 4 items on the agenda this evening. First up, and actually all 4 of them are public hearings that are still open. First up is Collier Park. Applicants requesting approval to subdivide 12.925 acre parcel into 6 individual lots with an existing house located at Lot 1. New pole barn is proposed for Lot 1 and Lot 2. This will be the second step in a 3-step process for a major subdivision. Sketch plan was approved July 11th, 2023. Good evening.
Good evening. Brendan Marks with Marks Engineering here. I'm not going to go through the whole summary of the project, but I do just have some updates. We did forward over to the town a fire flow study for the hydrants that supply the proposed subdivision, proving that we have a minimum of 1,000 gallons per minute with a greater than 20 psi residual pressure for the hydrants that serve this subdivision.
Okay. Any comments, questions? I think the fire marshal felt that it was a good fit, so. Okay.
I've got a few. I wasn't sure if you were looking at me or Al, sorry.
Well, I was looking at everybody, but go
Okay.
ahead, jump right in, Joe.
I've missed a couple of meetings, so my apologies. First thing, seems to be a question in my mind about 25 versus 30 houses as the minimum on a dead-end street, NFPA versus town code. What's the number?
I don't know, Wes, you want to address
Yeah,
that?
so I can get
directly?
into that.
memo addresses that.
Sorry, Ernie?
I said Wes's memo addresses that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as part of our September 5th, 2023 comment letter on the subdivision application, we attached a May 2012 memo from Labella Associates where we looked at the town's design and construction standards and analyzed, the purpose behind one of the provisions in the design and construction standards that limits the number of homes on a dead-end street. So I think it was, let me pull it up here. Where there is a public water supply, Victor limits the number of single-family homes that may be constructed on a dead-end street to no more than 25. And then there is a fire code which indicates that that's separate. New York State Fire Code allows for 30. So the town can be more restrictive, but also this is a provision in the town's design and construction standards which can be waived by the planning board. So section 21148 of the town code authorizes the planning board to provide waivers.
Very good.
Yeah.
So the applicant is requesting a waiver to bring it to 30 single-family houses as part of this.
Thank you. Okay. And then I'm a little unclear about the conservation easement language. I'm reading letters from the Conservation Board. It indicates, and a couple of the other documents indicate that the current subdivision is open space, and that the Conservation Board had originally proposed mid-level. So where are we going with the conservation easements?
Yeah, we did propose open space. In the mid-level, you're just gonna have to remind me what the different levels are again, if you could. Is that correspond to mid-level, open space?
Open space can have restrictions such as perhaps maybe no sheds, no lawn mowing.
No impervious areas,
But
right?
it's not very restrictive at all, and it seems to contradict some of the language that's in here about preservation of the swamp or the wetlands, some of the thickets, the desire to keep the back parts of the property as close to nature as possible, and I'm not sure if an open space is the correct easement to do that.
And we are comfortable with the mid-level, if that's what the board desires.
I think that's probably more in line with the stated goals for the property.
That's fine with us.
Okay? Anything else, Joe?
No?
Al? Questions? Scott? Ernie?
Nope.
Okay. I don't believe there's any other action we need until we get to part two, but this is a public hearing. It's still open. If there's anyone from the public that had any questions or comments to bring before the board and the applicant, just want to make a reminder that this is, public comment is 3 minutes limit, so. Okay, well, understand we have a 3-minute limit.
That's why I wrote this down, because I tend to ramble. My name's Vince Frizella. I reside on Collier Crossing. I'm a 24-year law enforcement veteran, with my last 15 years served as a patrol division supervisor with the Rochester Police Department. During that time, I responded and managed hundreds of critical incidents and have had an extensive safety training. I'm here to make you aware of the dangerous traffic conditions that may occur if you go forward with approving several more homes and driveways on our street. As I understand it, there are already more homes on our street that was originally allowed by the town. They've given the planning board a list of 8 types of large vehicles which we find on our street on a daily basis, all of which stop and park for various lengths of time on or near the crest of the hill that you see when you first enter our street, which is very dangerous. If you've ever not been on there, I suggest you go there and check it out. These vehicles can completely block the view of vehicles traveling in either direction. Your proposal will add 4 driveways on the south side of the street and will be located at or right after a hill where cars traveling in either direction have no ability to see cars approaching from the opposite direction. If a large vehicle is parked where the new driveways are going to be located, this forces vehicles to drive around it and sets up a potential for a head-on collision, which could result in serious injuries or death. There are additional safety concerns if families with young children move in and the children enter the street. If a child is looking for traffic, it will be nearly impossible for them or the driver of the vehicle to see each other until it's too late. I'm not against the developers building new homes in that location, and I realize it'll save them a lot of money if they tap into the amenities that are already there. But I believe if you have the subdivision come in from Route 9, you could alleviate all these problems altogether. So basically, that's what I need to say. And I would suggest if you've never been on our street, come off of Route 9. You'll see the hill I'm talking about. You'll realize where these drivers are going to be. You're asking for a head-on collision. So just letting you know.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for your
Thank
comments. Anyone else wish to address the developer or the board? Okay, with that, I'd like to ask if anyone would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Ernie moves.
I'll second.
Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. We have some work to do to go through the Part 2 of the environmental assessment form. Part of that is traffic and water supply and everything else under the sun. So with that, Wes is going to, I believe, hand out Part 2, and we'll review each of those items.
All right. As you know, before we make any determination or before we take action on the preliminary subdivision application, we need to go through Part 2 of the EAF and Part 3. So what I've done on your behalf is draft Part 2 here with some responses that I want to go through. Some of them we probably don't need to go into too much detail, but I'll start off with number 1, the impact on land. Yes, we know that the proposed action will involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. But each of the subcategories I've indicated for your consideration, no or small impact may occur. So including the proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of the existing ground surface. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. The proposed action may result in increase in erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. And the proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. So each of those categories I've identified for you no or small impact based on what's presented in the Part 1 EAF and the applicant's proposed design.
So just to, I guess, complement that discussion, it's been suggested that different access points and different house layout would be safer, and we'll talk about the traffic issue separately, but this application, the way it's laid out, in my opinion, offers the least amount of impact to the land form, excavation affecting drainage, all of that. So that is a relative impact. This is probably the smallest of other options that may, for instance, if you build a new road off of County Route 9 to service them separately, now you're impacting all of the conservation easement areas that have been set up for this particular application and the drainage path of at least one drainage stream and pond that's on site. So just for comparison, that's something we have to factor in when we look at all of the other elements of this application and the pluses and minuses and how we weigh and make a decision. So I'll be using up my 3 minutes if I keep going.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, right? And I know the applicant has mentioned as well, this proposed layout that they have here is preserving more of the steep sloped areas that are more to the south of the proposed homes and also to the west, the southwest corner. So, and those are going to be covered by a conservation easement. That's a very good point. So this for impacts to land, this potential layout seems to be pretty suitable for that.
All right, thanks, Wes.
Yep. Number 2, impact on geological features. I've indicated no impacts to geological features. Impacts on surface water. Yes, there may be an impact on surface waters, right? We do know that there's a stream there. There's also a wetland that the applicant delineated, and that is on the design plans as well. So for each of those subcategories for surface water, I've indicated no or small impact. So I'll go down through those quickly here. The proposed action may create a new water body. The applicant is not creating a new water body, so there is no impact there. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any water body. No impact there. C, the proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. There's going to be no impact. There's no dredging of material from a wetland or water body. Proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater tidal wetland or in the bed banks of any other water body. They are not going to be constructing within or immediately adjacent to any wetlands. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. No or small impact. F, the proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal of water from surface water. No impact there. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge or of wastewater to surface waters. No impact there. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or degradation of receiving water bodies. Indicated small impact in that regard. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in and around any water body. Indicated no or small impact. And the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No impact. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Number 4, impact on groundwater. I've indicated no, there's not going to be impact to groundwater as a result of the project. Impact on flooding, no impact on flooding. Impacts on air, we've indicated no impact on air. Impacts on plants and animals, yes, there may be an impact. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. So I've indicated no or small impact for each of the subcategories. The proposed action may cause a reduction in population or loss of individual of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. Proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by the New York State or federal government. The proposed action may cause a reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need listed by New York State or the federal government. Proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support biological communities it was established to protect. No impact. The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of designated significant natural community. No impact. The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site. No or small impact. And H, the proposed action requires a conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or any other regionally or locally important habitat. No or small impact. Questions on that? Do we need to visit?
I assume there's requirements for, or limitations on when they can cut trees and things, given that this is typically an area where the northern long-eared bat, which is an endangered species.
Yeah, I don't know if those regulations are still in play, but we could look into that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of when they can cut
Yeah.
trees down, because
Yeah.
the nesting,
I remember talking about that a few years back, the
Yeah.
northern long-eared bat.
we get that on every public project where,
You're still getting it?
yeah.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, they just, this spring, I think the bat was determined to be an endangered species, not just a threatened. So it's just a matter of limit, that the developer's limited as to when they can cut trees down that are larger than 3 inches, is it? Yeah. Thank you. So it doesn't really affect this analysis. It affects the developer as they go about.
Okay.
um,
Project construction.
Yeah. So,
Impact on agricultural resources, no impact. Impact on aesthetic resources. The land uses of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic aesthetic resource. Said no impact there. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed project may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. Indicated no impact there. Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. Indicated no. Impact on critical environmental areas. I've indicated no. There are no state-designated critical environmental areas in the town of Victor. Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. I've indicated no here, but I think.
I've got a question about that under other. You know, we've received comments.
Yep.
Both written and verbal now in the public hearings. And I've driven the road as part of my work as a school bus driver. So they make a valid point. Whether it's something to the degree that it needs to be checked, yes, and small or no impact. But I wonder if it's worthy of comment on the forum here.
Okay. So it may be, it may be. So I've also just wanted to follow up with the board here. I had an opportunity to talk to Lorenzo Rotoli, our traffic engineer, one of our traffic engineers up at Labella. And he did look at this project with me, and we kind of looked at and evaluated whether there was a need for the applicant to provide a traffic impact study. And his finding is that no, absolutely not. There's not a reason for the developer here to submit a traffic impact report. And oftentimes, they're not required if the project isn't generating more than 100 vehicle trips in the peak hour, right? And so this project is going to be well below that threshold. And even so, the town's code, Chapter 55, the Access Management Code, would require an applicant to submit a traffic impact study if the number of trips generated was going to exceed 100 vehicle trips. And that's also for roadways that are the more heavily traveled roadways, not Collier Crossing, this local roadway that's a dead-end street. So he felt that would be a waste of time and resources, especially because a planning board, even a non-technical planning board, could imagine the amount of traffic generated, even beyond the property owners, right, with their own personal vehicles, understanding the delivery trucks, the postal service vehicles, food delivery vehicles, school buses. The peak hour trips is still going to be significantly lower than 100 vehicle trips. And he didn't feel that the traffic that was generated would cause any amount of concern at all. Recognizing there is an intersection there, right, with County Road 9, which can sometimes be busy. You might have a delay of a few seconds with the additional homes that are going to be there. That's what I have to offer from Lorenzo.
Did he have any comments on the site distance issue that was brought up tonight, the location of the driveways?
No, we didn't talk specifically about the site distance issue, the vertical alignment of the roadway. No.
I thought that was a good comment. I think it was a valid comment, and Joe's comment is interesting too, because I have not driven the road, but if Joe has driven it and he feels that way, I think it's worth checking out.
And the design engineer may be more equipped to readily handle this question. Are there site distances noted on the
Yes, there are.
plans?
They might step up to the mic, just so it's on the record. Thanks.
So the posted speed limit on Collier Crossing is 30 miles an hour. The required site distance is 390, with the safe stopping distance at 250. We have exceeded that with all of our driveway entrances. The locations that we've selected, the shortest site distance we have is 514 feet. That is to the vertical curve that you mentioned as you crest over Collier Crossing. So we're well exceeding the safe stopping site distance posted.
Okay.
So is that-
you've measured that then?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
So is that from, we'll call it I can't read
The closest site
Property
distance,
number.
the shortest site distance is on Lot 4, which is the second one up. It's not the one immediately adjacent to the existing house. That actually is at the top of the hill. So Lot 4 is the next one up, and it is looking towards the east, towards County Road 9. You see the top of the vertical curve at 514, I should say, you see over the top of the vertical curve to an object at 42 inches above the grade on the opposite side of the hill at 514 feet.
So if there's a FedEx truck parked in front of Lot 4 and somebody's coming down the hill from in the subdivision and they want to go around that FedEx truck, what you're saying is there's adequate sight distance to see a vehicle coming from below.
There's 514 feet to react, and AASHTO requires us to have 390.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think the AASHTO standards take into consideration parked vehicles and that sort of thing. It's pretty much just a straight-up analysis from the object to the viewpoint. So what happens within the right-of-way, where vehicles park and that sort of thing, I suppose that's typical with any residential subdivision in this town or any other town. The regs just speak to that magical distance as presented.
Mostly it's regarding the left turn exit, actually, from lot 4, as a car's leaving the driveway, turning up the hill in this case.
Going up the hill, right,
The car would be coming behind it,
right.
would be the most dangerous movement and most
There's enough.
illogical movement,
Yeah.
too.
If those are the numbers, the standard has been satisfied. I don't know of any other standard that's out there that relates to parked vehicles that might obscure the line of sight, or sometimes vegetation or a bunch of other factors can come into play.
All right, anything else, Scott? Ernie, questions?
You know, I was going through Mendon yesterday, and there was a
Move
septic pump,
closer to your mic.
septic pumping truck backing into a driveway on a curve, and I had plenty of time to stop.
So you're saying it's a similar
Yeah,
issue for you, and it,
in fact, I think that is
Found a
even,
truck.
even more.
yeah. Okay. All right, thanks.
So do we want to have any more discussion on transportation? Are we comfortable with the way we've checked it here? Do you want to change it?
I know, I remember looking at the plan when they first came in with this, and even with the 5-house option early on, that first driveway was is still above or beyond the crest, and anyone leaving or exiting that driveway would still have enough sight distance to look, to make a right turn. It's not a problem, because they can see up the hill. It's not like they're beyond the crest down towards County Route 9, so I didn't have a problem with that. The gentleman that spoke this evening made a good point, as Scott pointed out, regarding, trying to pass a delivery vehicle. But it sounds like we've got the engineering to satisfy that issue. So,
I'm satisfied with Wes's
Yeah,
discussion.
all right.
Okay.
Press on, Wes.
Yep, impact on energy, number 14. The proposed action may cause an increase in use of any form of energy. Yes, we know that's going to be the case since they've got new homes, new residential homes. The proposed action will require a new or an upgrade to an existing substation, no or small impact. The proposed action will require the creation of an extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences to serve a commercial or industrial use, no or small impact. The proposed action will utilize more than 2,500 megawatt hours per year of electricity, no or small impact, and the proposed action may involve heating and/or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed, no or small impact. Impact on noise, odor, and light. Yes, there's going to be a change, right? The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. With regard to noise, it's likely going to be, the noise levels will likely increase as part of construction. Those are likely going to be temporary increase in noise levels, and I think we would expect the noise to go back to whatever the ambient sound levels are after construction. So the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in blasting. There's not going to be any blasting. The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions, no or small impact. Number 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants, indicated no. Two more questions here. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with the adopted land use plans. I've indicated no. The design, the project is consistent with local land use regulations and the comprehensive plan. Consistency with community character. The
How
proposed
about,
oh,
question, if they're requesting a waiver from community, or from our community plans, is that,
well, I might say that is a very specific, like the title of the book, the document, Design and Construction Standards. I would say that while that is a very detailed standard, I don't know that I would categorize that as you know, more of a broad planning type of document.
and the document allows for waivers, so
It does.
it's consistent, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Asking for a waiver, okay.
It's a fair question, though.
It's a language kind of
Yeah.
verbiage thing, yeah. But I'm good.
Okay. And lastly, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. I've indicated no. Any questions on that?
Just going back to energy, where do they run the power from? Do you have to go down to County Route 9 and run it underground up Collier Crossing, I assume? Or can they tap into the line that's going up there? Okay. On the north side of Collier
Currently runs
Crossing.
on the north side of Clay Crossing underground primaries. They would tap into the primaries and run it across.
Okay, and that's not going to be an issue
No.
capacity-wise for them?
There's already several transformers on the north side of the street,
Okay,
likely big enough to handle this.
all right. Okay, that's the only question I had. Thanks.
I'll also follow up on one of the sub-questions on number 17. The proposed action may cause a change in the density of development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or is distant from existing infrastructure. And I just want to go back and talk a little bit briefly on the water supply issue. And I talked with Monroe County Water Authority yesterday, and one of our resident engineers at Labella about the water supply here. And neither one had concerns about water pressure for the homes at the top of the hill if 4 new homes were constructed along Collier Crossing. And I should also note that the 2 homes that front on County Road 9 connect to a different pressure zone than the 4 homes that will front on Collier Crossing. And there's an 8-inch main on Collier Crossing, and with the 1-inch services, they didn't see that there would be any problem with water pressure,
Okay,
for what it's worth.
well, that's good to know about the other 2 homes, what you just said, that it's different pressure zone. Comforting to the balance of that community, as it could be.
Yeah. So with that, I've got a draft Part 3 here and a draft resolution that would take action on Part 3 of the EAF, a
Okay.
seeker resolution, and if you want to read that or consider that,
Yep.
feel free.
Do we need to look at part 3 or just go through?
Just go through the
Yeah,
resolution.
okay. Thanks. All right, so as Wes indicated, we do have a draft seeker resolution. Better with glasses. So for Collier Park,
You closed the public hearing?
sorry?
Do you want to close the,
Public hearing.
we did?
Yep.
Why don't we call him that?
Just before Wes started going through his,
Right.
sorry, I might have been too quiet about it.
Maybe.
Okay, so for application 1 PS 2023, whereas on or about July 18th, 2023, the Secretary of the Town of Victor Planning Board received a preliminary subdivision application from Comark Holdings LLC, the applicant, to subdivide approximately 12.925 acres at 606 County Route 9 into 6 single-family residential lots entitled Collier Park Subdivision, the project, located on County Route 9 and Collier Crossing, tax map 703-117-000, and Whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board preliminarily classified the project as a Type 1 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act pursuant to seekers implementing regulations at the August 22nd, 2023 Planning Board meeting, and initiated the lead agency coordination process by transmitting Part 1 of the Seeker Environmental Assessment Agency Coordination Process by transmitting Part 1 of the Seeker Environmental Assessment Form and project information to involved and interested agencies, including the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State Department of Health, and the Ontario County Department of Public Works. And whereas no involved agencies objected to the planning board being lead agency or 30 days had passed since Part 1 of the EAF was transmitted to them, therefore the planning board assumed lead agency status by resolution at the September 26, 2023 Planning Board meeting. And whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board as lead agency has carefully reviewed the project, Part 1 of the long environmental assessment form, application materials including but not limited to the subdivision plan set, the engineering's report, supplement to the engineer's report with water supply calculations, wetland delineation, stormwater pollution prevention plan, and has also carefully reviewed and considered written public comments regarding the proposed project. Public comments expressed during the required public hearing for the preliminary subdivision application, consultant and outside agency review comments, including comments from the Ontario County Planning Board, Ontario County Department of Public Works, Town Code Enforcement Office, Town Stormwater Management Program Manager, Town Highway Department, Coordinated Fire Service, Town Engineer, including Town Engineer Memorandum to the Town Supervisor regarding requirements for dead-end streets dated May 31st, 2012, Town Conservation Board, Town of Farmington Sanitary Sewer, and the environmental record concerning the project. And whereas the Planning Board has caused the completion of Parts 2 and 3 of the long environmental assessment form, including attachments thereto, and has carefully reviewed and considered the same, and has not identified the potential for at least one significant adverse environmental impact. Now therefore be resolved that no potential significant adverse environmental impacts were identified with the proposed project using the criteria for determining significance identified in 6 NYCRR 617 7C1 and in accordance with 6 NYCRR Section 617 7C2 and 3, and based on the hard look analysis and other information presented in the full EAF Parts 1, 2, and 3, the Town of Victor Planning Board hereby determines that the proposed project will not present the potential for a significant adverse environmental impact, and hereby issues a negative declaration. And be it further resolved, a notice of negative declaration shall be filed and/or published to the extent required by seeker resolution regulations, and this resolution has been prepared in accordance with Article 8 of the New York Environmental Conservation Act. So with that extended reading, do I hear a motion for approval?
I move.
Ernie moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor? Aye. Carried 5-0. So we have a negative declaration for seeker. If you guys are all good with this, we also have a draft preliminary subdivision resolution to read. I think we've gotten about as much information as we can regarding that application. Anybody object?
No?
Okay, so with that, we have a resolution for the Collier Park preliminary subdivision, 606 County Route 9, application 1 PS 2023. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 19 of them, which I'm not going to read. Whereas the planning board classified the project as a Type 1 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and initiated the lead agency coordination process, which I just read through. Whereas Section 21148 of the Victor Town Code requires all development to be consistent with the current town design and construction standards and the access management standards of Chapter 55, unless specifically waived by the planning board. And whereas Chapter 55 of the Town Code is not applicable to the Collier Crossing roadway, as the road is not a public arterial, collector, or local through roadway, and a traffic impact study is not required, as the project will not be generating 100 or more peak hour trips. And whereas the LaBelle Associates memorandum dated May 31st, 2012 provides a recommendation for how to consider requests for a waiver to the number of single-family residences on a dead-end street by minimizing potential impacts as a consequence of greater front setbacks for the properties near the dead-end access or buffering along the roadway for properties near the dead-end street access. And whereas the applicant is proposing new lots at the entrance to the dead-end road, not at the terminal end of the dead-end road, and proposes a front setback of 40 feet from the right-of-way to Collier Crossing, which complies with the front setback requirement of the R2 zoning district and provides a greater setback than the existing homes immediately to the north that have an approved 30-foot front setback that was approved as part of clustered subdivision in 2007. Moreover, the applicant has incorporated a landscape plan that includes 14 new trees to be planted along the frontage of the new lots being created along Collier Park. Now therefore be resolved that the planning board hereby waives section 2934 of the town's design and construction standards as authorized by section 21148 of the Victortown Code so as to allow four new lots to front and access Collier Crossing, along with a total of 30 single-family residences to be accessed by Collier Crossing. And be it further resolved that the planning board hereby waives section 2792 of the town's design and construction standards for lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 so as to allow roof and basement drainage to discharge to on-site infiltration trenches to promote opportunity for groundwater recharge and reduction in surface water runoff. And be it resolved that the preliminary subdivision application Comark Holdings LLC, major subdivision entitled Collier Park Subdivision, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the preliminary subdivision plan. Item 1 is standard. Item 2 is standard. Comments in a letter dated August 8th, 2023 and August 22nd, 2023 from the code enforcement officer be addressed. Number 4, that the comments in a letter dated September 5th, 2023 from Labella Associates be addressed. Number 5, the comments in the letter dated July 27th, 2023 from Stormwater Manager be addressed. Number 6, that the comments in a letter dated July 26, 2023 from the Highway Superintendent be addressed. And number 7, that the comments in letter dated August 7th, 2023 from the Farmington Water and Sewer Department be addressed. Ongoing conditions, number 1 is standard. Number 2, that all conservation easement markers be shown on the final subdivision plans, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So with that resolution reading, do I hear a motion for approval?
Make a comment first.
Sure.
You and I, Joe, were on the board when this originally was approved.
Yes, true.
And I can recall clearly believing that at some point in time, these lots were going to be used. So it doesn't surprise me that they're here now.
Yeah. I
That's the
agree.
comment.
Thank you.
A question?
Yes.
We discussed upgrading, if you will, the conservation easement from open space to the next most restrictive. Will that be reflected on the next set of drawings that come in for a signature?
I'll let the applicant go for that.
Yeah, no, I looked it up. So I had to look up the 3 different levels while we were sitting here. So there's the least restrictive, there's the site-specific, which is actually titled Site-Specific Protections for Open Space and Sensitive Resources. Then there's the most restrictive, which is quote-unquote forever wild, right?
And no touch.
So the site-specific protections for open space and sensitive resources would be the next level. That's, we agree with that. So that would be and the date on that document that's from the town, the template, is conservation easement site specific restrictions dated 7/12/2010.
Okay. Thank you. And I believe we can address that in the final subdivision plans.
And I don't want to belabor this, but there's 3 blanks, so we should probably talk about those. The keeping of livestock and cattle and other sheep, goats in the conservation area, there's a blank. We put 0 on that, right? There was, and then there's number 14 says there shall be no plowing, disking, tilling, or cultivating soils near. Shall be no cultivating of soils nor shall there be any sowing, planting, cultivation, or harvesting of plants with the exception of, I would just say, a household garden. And then the number 15 is seasonal mowings of a questionable number of times in the conservation area. We would put 2. That would be with a bush hog.
We can talk about that in final set, but I appreciate the
Okay,
perspective.
sorry, yeah, it's
It's
preliminary
okay.
still. Yeah, thank you.
And that is the typical
Yeah,
site-specific, so
Yeah.
that's good.
okay. So, I think we have a motion.
I'll move.
Ernie moved.
I'll second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. So preliminary subdivision plans are approved. Item number 2, mobile graphics building. The public hearing is open for this, 7120 Lane Road. Owners Lane Road Properties LLC. Applicant is requesting approval to demolish a pre-existing barn and shed, construct a 3,840 square foot building to support their existing business operations. This is a 1.76 acre property. Good evening.
Good evening. Just to clarify, we were item 3. I'm fine with being item 2.
So,
I just don't want to budge, but
yeah,
if that's what it is, that's...
according to my latest from
That
Lisa,
might have been a me error, so whatever way you
making
want to go.
unless Victor Community Church wishes to go for the earlier. Okay,
All right.
go ahead,
All
you're
right.
up.
Well, good evening. My name is Mason Everhart. I'm an engineer with DDS Companies. Also in attendance with me tonight is Chris Bailey, applicant and owner of Mobile Graphics. We are here tonight for the resubmission of the property located at 7120 Lane Road. They wish to construct a 3,800 square foot storage/garage building. Now, as you may recall, I was here before you on the 26th of last month for the initial submission, and during that time, there were a few items that you, the board members, had brought to our attention as potential concerns. The main one being the lack of distance between the residence to the west and the proposed new building. We have since maximized the distance between that residence and the new build, shifting the building eastward while still maintaining an adequate drive lane for commercial vehicles to enter and exit the site. Additionally, I believe we talked about landscaping buffers. I had initially submitted last week a landscaping plan that had not yet been reviewed by Bruce, the landscape architect. I have since revised per the comments from him today, and I'd be happy to pass those out right now.
Please.
Cheers, thank you.
So, what was submitted last week included emerald green arborvitaes along the west side of the building. And per Bruce's comment, he thought that that was an inadequate tree to use. And of course, he is the expert. I am not an expert in landscaping. So per his comment, he mentioned a few different spruce trees that we could utilize there that were bigger and that were more deer resistant. So I had chose the Norway spruce or an approved equal per Bruce's comment. Additionally, Bruce had mentioned that he wanted to see more landscaping in the front of the property near Lane Road, both in the circle between the existing building and the proposed, as well as between Lane Road and the proposed building. And he wanted those to be flowering shade trees, and at least a minimum of 5. So you will see that depicted on the plans in your hands now. So with that being covered, the landscaping as well as the proposed building being shifted to maximize that distance with the residents to the west, in recent talks over the last couple of weeks with Chris, he had voiced that he wanted to see the concrete pad of the existing barn remain. And in discussions with him, it makes sense to keep something like that. I mean, why put a perfectly good conditioned concrete pad to waste? And that can be used for something, recreationally, such as maybe a basketball court or something of that nature. And then in addition, we had, of course, the utility plan, the landscape plan, as I mentioned, and the grading plan has been revised to accommodate for both the concrete pad and the shift of the building. With that, I think I've covered everything that I'd like to. I'd like to turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll open up to the board first.
I just have a question. This, that lights colored square on the upper left, that's the building that's going to be demolished?
Yeah, so in the upper left-hand corner there is the existing barn that they wish to demolish,
Okay.
which originally was just entirely being demolished, but now, at the request of the applicant, he would like to keep the concrete pad.
You're going to keep the concrete pad, but demolish the
But
building?
demolish the rest of the building.
Okay.
Yep.
Tim, can you hear Ernie when he's talking? Yeah. Just make sure you're up closer to the mic, Ernie,
Oh. How's that?
as long as they can hear it. Yeah, they can hear it, so. You gotta be about a foot away or less. Okay. Any questions from the board? I guess, Ernie, was there anything else?
All I had.
No? Okay. Scott?
I think last time we spoke about maybe keeping the proposed building closer to the existing building to the east. Did you consider doing that and not find the suitable design? Is that why we're looking at what we're looking at?
Yeah, so as I had mentioned previously, the goal was to satisfy your concerns of maximizing the space between the residence to the west and the new proposed building. We did that while still maintaining what we believe is, and historically speaking, an adequate drive lane for commercial vehicles to both enter and exit the site. And with the revised plans, you can see it's 24 feet between the edge of pavement and the proposed building. And that overall, we shifted the building 14 feet to the east. Now there is approximately 70 feet between the residence and the new building.
70 feet from the property line or 70 feet from the building?
31 feet from the property line, 70 feet between the structures.
And I believe that part of that discussion, sorry for
That's okay, go ahead.
following on, but part of that discussion was, you've got a commercially, a commercial special, what is this, a
It's a-
variance or a?
Use variance they have.
Variance. And if it were commercially zoned, it would be 100 feet, not 35. You said 35 from the existing line, right? The property line?
31.
31. One of the discussion points we had last time, along with that, attaching it maybe to the existing building, was have a shared driveway between the two buildings, and that would allow you to move them much closer and then just come in and split to both sides, and then put the storm water management space in another location or reorient it so you could still do that. That would give you the much better setback from the existing house and be much more in conformance with a commercially zoned, or a commercially zoned property.
Now, as for connecting to the existing building, that can bring up a lot of issues. Obviously, it can be more expensive in the long run. When you build a new building like this, you have new insulation, you have new mechanicals, all of those things, and that can save on cost of operation overall. So just to help our applicant, we didn't want to take that route. And then as far as moving the stormwater management area, there is an existing stormwater management area there that we had wanted to maintain and just expand upon, which is why initially we had never had the management area be on the far west side.
Yeah, wasn't it more, like I'll call it oval or circular towards the back, rather than elongated between two driveways now in your plan?
Correct, yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering why it still couldn't be that, in the back, rather than having to stretch it and then be the divider between the driveways of the two buildings.
Mhm.
I have a lot of sympathy for your, attaching the two buildings.
Mhm.
Energy or otherwise, cost doesn't work, and I'm fine with that, but
Right.
we're trying to reduce the footprint, impervious footprint of this site, if at all possible, by sharing driveways between the two buildings.
Mm.
So that was the main reasoning, other than having a good setback from the
Right.
residential.
Just to build upon the setback discussion a little further as well, having the building on the west side like it is when those commercial vehicles are pulling in and out of the site, if it's early in the morning and it's dark out, you can hear those vehicles, you can see the light peering through, and that building, on its own also acts as a buffer for the residents to the west. It's a wall essentially where when those trucks are leaving or entering the site, their headlights bounce off the building instead of into the windows of the residents next door. And then, of course, the landscape buffer also provides additional blockage there.
Quick question on the building separation. So you've noted 69 feet of building separation between your proposed building and the residents to the west. What's the separation between your proposed building and your existing building?
I am not entirely sure of that distance. Obviously, I have the distance between the property line on the east side and the building, which is 208 feet. And then the setback is, roughly 17 feet. I would have to estimate between, 120 and 150 feet.
Okay.
What were you getting at, just out of curiosity?
I guess just getting at, the planning board's concern of providing separation between the different types of uses of the property, right? So you've got a residential property to the west, and you've got 69 feet of separation, but with the same commercial type of building on the same parcel, it seems like there's a greater separation between the two buildings. But I understand your point. Your point is well taken in terms of having this building possibly serve as a bit of a buffer to traffic operations on site. I get that.
I may have misunderstood your question. Are you asking about the existing building and the residents to the east and the difference between those two buildings?
Well, what's the distance between the existing commercial building on the property? What's the distance between that and your proposed building? That appears to be greater than the distance between your proposed building and the adjoining residents to the west.
Mm-hmm. And that's obvious. That has to do with maintaining the existing gravel driveway, of course, and the stormwater management area. But I would also like to point out that the residents to the east and the existing building have a very similar distance between them as what we are proposing as well, if that holds any merit.
We don't always want to repeat a
Correct.
challenge, that's somewhere else, just because it's there next door. So I'm going to push back a little more on that, on your retention pond, because right now it's way in the back, right along the thruway property. And the new impoundment or retention area doesn't even overlap what you've got back there now. And I don't know why you wouldn't just make that other one larger to fit the needs of this site.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's understood. I see what you mean.
I would have just said, go ahead and enlarge it. Then you got no interference at all from that, from the pond that you've designed. And then you could move the building farther over and still have that access, joint access driveway, if you will, between the two buildings.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of space there. And then you'd improve the buffer between that building and the other house. So I'm not sold on it, I guess.
Okay.
So I'll move on, I guess. Al, questions?
I pretty much echo your comments, Joe. I mean, we've seen some movement, increasing the distance, but my preference would be a greater distance if possible.
Any other comments, thoughts?
I got a couple questions.
Sorry, Scott.
That's all right. Could you just refresh my memory as to what the restrictions are that go along with the use variance that was granted in terms of how this property is to be used, like number of vehicles or whatever the zoning board granted?
Yeah, there were three main topics that the zoning board had to cover. Initially, of course, the Baileys had wanted to turn this into an apartment on the top floor. And then, of course, the zoning board, they didn't want something like that, considering it's, a commercial use on that property.
Right.
So the second floor of the building was, as far as being an apartment, that's no longer a...
Right. The original use variance allowed for a certain amount of commercial traffic, I guess I'll call it, right? Vehicles that come and go here, is that correct?
I am not sure whether or not...
The ZBA,
Well, the ZBA, when I was on, it granted you a use variance, and my memory fails me as to what the conditions were with the use variance, but I think there were limitations on, what the business,
it was the number of employees
well,
and the types of delivery vehicles that would come to the property.
is that correct?
It should be in your packet, Scott, the
Okay.
ZBA variance that was just granted.
Yeah, it's recent.
And it does give I think what you're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
So relative to that and the building that's being proposed, the building that's being proposed is identified as storage. You show sanitary and water and electric to it, so I guess my question is if it's being used for storage,
No, it's not.
no?
No, they're going to have employees there.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the plan, it says storage building.
Well, that may be what they call it, but in front of the ZBA, they have up to 9 employees, I think.
Yeah, so a large portion of it is going to be a garage and storage area, and I'm sure Chris can speak on this more as well as to the use of it.
Okay, so there will be employees in there? Is that,
Hi, Chris Bailey,
hi,
Mobile Graphics, resident, 650 Old Dutch Road. Basically, current building that we have, storage is an issue, flat sheet goods. The other thing that we wish to do in the new building, which was granted by the ZBA, was our vehicle installations. That's cars, trucks, vans, that type of stuff. As we take in a little bit more area in the back of our current building, we wanted to off-site a lot of the flat goods, and that also gives us the ability to bring the vehicles next door. So the amount of employees next door in the new building would be very minimal. It'd be 2 maximum, but that's shared between the 2 buildings. So total between the 2 buildings, we're allowed 9 employees. The site that we chose just to move it forward was after removing the structure, the 40 by 60 pole barn that's existing. We pushed it over off to the side more. We did move it forward, but I just saw it initially as in line with the current structure, and I didn't really give it a lot of thought as to pushing it closer. It's just been that way. I've seen it for 20 years, so that's the way I envision, the building moving forward. The current building does have a house, residential home that's probably more like 40 to 60 feet away from our current building.
You're talking the one to the east, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that your home, or is that just?
No,
another-
it's some of
Yeah,
the
okay.
different residents.
Yours is to the west, correct?
Used to be,
Yeah.
no longer.
Right. You said Old Dutch Road, I think you're on, right?
Yeah.
Scott, anything else?
I don't have any more questions at this time.
Okay. Joe?
I just wanted to note, I was going to have issues with the landscape plants. I'm happy to see that they've been revised. I like the flowering dogwoods, the pear trees. I think that'll look nice. And I'm looking at the elevations, and we're looking at bright blue overhead doors? Or is that just,
No, yeah, they're white.
Okay, thank you.
It will be similar to what's the doors on the existing building.
very good? That's all I've got.
Al? Any other comments? Okay. I'm not quite sure what to do with the building location. I'm not crazy about being that close. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but, I mean, Al said that, kind of echoed my comments, but, anyone else have an objection?
I feel the same way. I feel it's rather close. But I guess, has there been another landscaping plan then after this memo that I have?
There was another one that they just submitted today. Bruce has not looked at
Oh, okay.
this one that they just submitted. So he hasn't had time to look at that today.
This is a public hearing, so I do want to leave the floor open to the public, see if anyone has any comments for the applicant or the board. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Al? Ernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Further discussion. Wes, do you have anything you want to offer, comments?
So we haven't had the opportunity to do a full formal evaluation, so we don't have a letter quite yet for this, this site plan. So nothing, nothing further at this point.
Okay. Like I said, I'm still wrestling with building location. I do think it should be a lot closer to the existing structure. And you could redo the stormwater management area to be more in line with where it is now, just enlarging it. I mean, there's opportunities for connectivity between the buildings across the parking lots, a single drive in or out. You can utilize the two entrances you already have. It's just extending that, I'll call it the westerly entrance back between two buildings. I think you'll eliminate some impervious area, and I honestly think it'll flow better, and it'll give you the offset to the existing house that's already there. So, I don't know how you guys are responding to that, but it just seems like the board's kind of supportive of that approach. I think you should be looking at that as well.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna obviously have to talk about this. I would just want to ask as well, how the concrete pad situation would tie into something like this as well.
If you're just using it for recreation, does it need to be? I mean, you could have it off to the corner, you could have that as being an offset to the corner of the parking area or drive area, and you wouldn't have trucks driving across the concrete pad, unless you don't want to use it, unless you wanted to incorporate it into the driveway, or parking area, or travel, I don't know if you call that a circulation area around that pad, but was that the intent to be able to drive over it and use it that way? Because you mentioned like basketball court or use for something else, so.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it needed to be connected, physically to the parking area.
That's something that we're gonna have to discuss as well, but.
I mean, just like
What
you're
was
having.
your question, if the board has any issue with retaining the
Yeah, I
concrete pad?
guess, so if we, hypothetically speaking, go ahead and section off the concrete pad, if it exists on its own, that wouldn't be an issue.
I would say is, the way we're talking about this, if you move the building closer to the existing building, you can still have it attached to I'll call it the westerly edge of that parking space, and you can still back onto it from a paved or improved area.
Okay.
So it's not like you'd be losing the utility of it.
Right.
And I wouldn't object if that's what your limitation was of moving the building, is you wanted to still retain access to that pad.
Okay.
So I don't think,
I don't have an issue with retaining the pad,
yeah,
whether it's
Oh.
adjacent to or separate.
sure.
It's for recreational use. I don't think it matters.
But if it's for their utility to be able to be attached to other pavement, I don't have a problem limiting moving the building, do you?
No.
Okay, anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just running through you, what you're, trying to move the building over, and in my head visualizing what the property's like now.
Sure.
Where we do have that drainage now, and it's.
You're talking about the stormwater management
Yeah,
area?
and that's kind of why we worked around the driveways and stuff the way we did, to maintain that storm drainage. So I don't know how that would get enlarged in its spot. It would have to go solely to the back and not come out into the property as far. If we're going to move that building closer and share driveways, I'm just having a hard time envisioning that plan.
All right, I'm looking at your engineer's plan showing the new contours, and it's drawing C5. And what I see in the background, the existing contours, is the retention area is right up against the thruway and partially in front of, if you want to call the easterly edge of that building that's there. But it's not anywhere near where the new area for retention.
Where the oval is, the water is to the farthest point towards the buildings and the driveways.
You don't have it. Wes is going to bring it up on the screen. It'd be easier
Okay.
to talk to that rather than me trying to describe it.
Yeah, you can see the water there now.
You're talking about this?
Yes. So just
That
moving.
doesn't show up on the contours. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and that's what was set up for the drainage ditch, to go filter the water to the back to this throughway, but that retains water. It is like a little pond area.
Yeah, what I see on the contours is just a pond in this area here.
Which
This-
remains pretty much dry in comparison to
Oh.
behind that pickup truck picture.
Yeah, I guess I'm not seeing this pond, this linear element
Yeah.
on the contours. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to picture it unless you're doing what
Right,
Wes
that's
is
why
trying to
I was
do.
saying, I'm envisioning the property and what you guys are discussing, and the way it's already been set up for the drainage and everything. The only way I thought a new building could work with the current drainage would be to put the horseshoe around it, and that's
Okay.
kind of why we situated the building where it was.
I understand where you're coming from. This is a better graphic
Yeah.
illustration, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
I don't know, Wes, if you have any comments about this, or have you guys looked at the drainage at all?
No, we haven't evaluated the drainage, but it may require some, I don't know if it's going to be significant regrading or site work. I just don't know.
I mean, it essentially, they'd be, my theory earlier was to just make this an enlarged area here, and then if this does not appear to be on the, like I said, on the contours, but if this were filled in, and then the driveway becomes, the building comes close to this, I'm not saying on top of it, but then this would, if this were the edge, if the front of the barn, easterly edge of the existing barn, were drawn straight down to the road, that would be the westerly edge of your new building, and this would be a shared driveway to parking area, and then that parking area behind the building would be lined up with this concrete pad, which is the building removed. That's my thought. So if you're saying that it's not possible to take this out and fill it in as part of the rework of the site, I can understand the argument, but I don't think that's such a significant water feature in the grand scheme of things.
I guess my rebuttal to that would be, to go through all that work, we're only really buying another 10, 15 feet, 20 feet at most.
Of
How much
moving-
is that really going to affect, the residents to the west?
That's a pretty good-sized storage building. How tall is that?
Is it
Probably.
35 feet?
Is it a 35-foot building?
I don't know.
I thought it might have been shorter because they took away the apartments. Is there still a second floor or mezzanine inside that building?
There's a mezzanine, yeah. That's the plan.
Well, it's pretty tall. And that was part of the objection of having it so close to the property line.
Well, and that may be why, in Bruce's comments, he had mentioned also to get bigger trees there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, agreed. Norway spruce is a good choice in my opinion too, so.
So that could, of course, also mitigate the residents seeing the peaks of that building once those trees are mature.
Well, again, we're not making an action on this evening, so I guess I'd say take it back, consider it, and we can deal with it at the next meeting.
Okay.
So, I personally would prefer to see the building move, but if that's filling in a pond that's unnecessary expense from your perspective, then, you know, I could listen to that argument, but, I don't know, Wes, I'm gonna take a ride up to your site in the meantime.
Okay.
And take a look at that, because I've only seen it from the road, I haven't really gone into the site, so, okay?
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. Item 3 is the Victor Community Church site plan. 7500, 7512 State Route 251, owner Victor Community Church. Applicants requesting approval to construct a 2,008 square foot addition with a parking expansion around the north and west side of the building. Proposed 18 new parking spaces to the west, as well as 2 new parking spaces to the south and 3 spaces to the east. You gotta see it to get that description. 8 spaces will be removed, so, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Steve Lamarco. I'm the pastor at Victor Community Church. Live at 7056 Dryer Road here in Victor. Might also have interacted with you in my roles in the fire department or at Victor Farmington Ambulance. So, or previously, as we've discussed our site on other occasions. The primary use of the addition is to centralize the office spaces for our staff, and that's the specific intent of that. We also recognize that adding that removes some parking and creates the need to add those additional spaces in as well. I believe some of the concerns or items that were brought up with all of the responses Brian can deal with. And also note that we had previously gone to the ZBA for some variances for setbacks. As the properties have been merged, I believe as recently as in the last week, the paperwork was finalized, we'll be withdrawing our request for the side lot variances because those are a moot point for now. So I'll stand by in case you have any questions for me.
Did you say you lived at 7056?
Yes.
All right, I'm up the hill, 7117, so.
No, yeah.
Okay. You scoped it out already. Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor. Actually, we have interacted before, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, right. I know we have.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on who's watching.
And Brian White with Hunt Engineers, and what I just gave to you guys today, we submitted this afternoon, so we got LaBella's comments yesterday. So this has 2 sides. The first, so C 1.2 has the sequence of construction notes updated, and then on the back side is the C 2.1. We've added the grading through the parking in the back and shown a proposed stockpile location, as well as added a couple of erosion and sediment control details to that. Otherwise, the other couple comments that were added were for the exterior lighting. I do have a couple of
Will you send that electronic tomorrow?
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that is what is So that light there, that's the corner of what's existing. That's a full cutoff, dark sky compliant. So the cut sheet is on the back of those pages, so it's a Lumark. That was approved with the 2015, 2016 renovations that we did for the church. So same as proposed. Photometrics would be the same as what they are. It's just shifting that building addition out a little bit further. So essentially shifting where the lights are on the building, be where that is. So it gives you kind of a visual of where that addition would be with the lighting as well. And then otherwise, the other main comment was the sprinkler system. So that'll be addressed by the architect, Wolf Architecture, through building permit sets. And then they'll address as well where the actual exterior lightings will be on their plans, but at least wanted to get this in front of you guys too, to let you know. That was one of the other questions that was, or comments that was brought up.
As long as you're on the lighting discussion.
Yeah.
I know they're on this sheet, but the uplighting is not part of your application, correct?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Just the down lights.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Just want to make sure we were all
Yeah.
clear on that. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem.
Did you put up the first slide that was up there? No, that
Ernie?
one, that's the one.
Okay.
What's that area in blue?
So that's the additional property. That's been sitting vacant for, I don't remember how long. The church has previously, or has recently purchased that and have combined the two parcels together.
Okay.
You did a lot line adjustment. It's all
answers my
one big
question.
parcel now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
It's already been completed.
Correct. Yeah, everything was finalized and filed with the county last week? Last week.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah,
it
so
easier.
any issues with, impervious on the lot, that's no longer going to be the case. The side setback was the other issue. So those two are no longer valid. So through the ZBA, we got the front setback for the parking in the building. And that reduces it down to 50 feet from the lot line.
So you're just to the, I'll call it east of that house that's on 251 there?
Yes.
This house right here, it's just, like the property line's right along their driveway, it looks like almost. Am I mistaken on that?
Or to the east.
Where 7512 is that
This
what
one
you're
here,
asking?
this one here, yeah, is that, I can't read it.
Oh, fifth.
So 50 Victor Heights Parkway,
Uh-huh.
that's a commercial building.
Yep.
This one?
Correct.
Integrated.
Oh, integrated, okay, got it. Yeah, all right, and this is their property line, okay. Wes has got the lines up on his computer, so,
So the property line is basically the western boundary of the blue, the northern boundary of the blue, and then when it comes down and connects with the yellow is the eastern and the southern boundary. Where the blue and the yellow overlap is,
oh,
that was
yeah,
the administrative lot line adjustment.
right. There's a house engulfed in the yellow,
Yeah,
right?
7512, that's currently staff housing,
Okay. All right, so it is part of your property, got it,
yes.
thanks. Ernie, any questions? Any others?
I just wondered what that blue was, and now I know.
Now you know. Scott?
I'm remembering this project too from when I was on the zoning board some years ago.
Yep. Yeah, 2015 through 16 was kind of the first rendition of it.
And did the zoning board give you then a variance for the parking?
Yeah, so we did bring the parking closer. It was down to 61 feet or something like that. I forget exactly now what it was. And then I remember at the time, the issue was, okay, prove to us that you need additional parking. And now, fast forward to today, and we're at 2 services on Sundays, starting to get to that point where we need the additional space for the building, additional space for parking. For right now, with acquiring 7512 and 110 Victor Heights Parkway, we're able to move some of that parking as well to the north side of it.
So was that variance for 50 feet then, was that granted some time ago, or was it granted recently?
That was this summer.
Oh, was this summer?
Yep.
Okay. Because I didn't remember, I seem to recall there was an 80-foot requirement when it was before the zoning board, when I was on it.
Yeah, that was for the building. We got that reduced, and then, the parking was reduced to,
Okay.
When we were talking back then, when you were on the ZBA, it was reduced to 61 for
Okay.
for parking only.
Okay.
And then with the additional variances that we asked for this summer.
Okay. Thanks, that clarifies it for me.
Anything else, Scott?
No.
Al?
No questions.
Joe?
No questions.
Okay. I know Wes had one question.
Ryan, I wanted to show you on the graphic. I just had a quick question for you. And I circled that. Do you have any, what that is? Is that a motion detector or is that a light?
yeah.
There you got it.
That is an additional downlight as well. That is separate, so that's a separate light that gets turned on when
Gotcha. All right.
on
Which it's
It's on a
controlled manually.
it's switched.
It's a,
Yeah.
it's a, there's a swivel
Timer switch,
thing.
it's also on a swivel mount,
Got it.
so that it can,
Yeah, I see your Foursquare court on the aerial here. Mixed. I think it's right in there.
It's part of the parking. That's
yeah,
cool.
well, we
That's
can't
all.
fit it in.
Yeah, right. Creative use of your spice.
Trying to be creative.
Yeah, that's right where the addition would be going anyways, so,
Yep. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, as public hearing, open up the floor if anyone from the community has any comments for the applicant or the board. Hearing and seeing none, unless Susie had something online. Nothing there. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Go seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Public hearing is closed. Wes, do you have anything you want to add? Questions for the applicant?
I don't think so. Our letter dated October 23rd, they've already responded to. We're satisfied with those responses. I don't have anything further.
Okay. I believe this application has the support of the board as presented. So, do have a draft resolution that I can read if you guys are all set with that. Sounds like you are. By the silence. So, Resolution Victor Community Church Site Plan, Application 35 SB 2023. This is 7500 to 7512 State Route 251. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 11 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Victor Community Church Site Plan entitled Victor Community Church Site Plan drawn by Hunt Engineers, dated September 19th, 2023, received by the planning board September 22nd, 2023. Planning board application number 35 SB 2023 be approved with the following conditions: to be addressed by, prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, that the comments in a letter dated October 23rd, 2023 from LaBella Associates be addressed. Number 3, that the comments in a letter dated October 16th, 2023 from the code officer be addressed. Ongoing conditions, number 1, standard. Number 2 is also a standard note, and number 3 is a standard note about building permits. So, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. Do I hear a motion for approval of this resolution? Ernie moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Welcome.
Okay, do you have revision dates on these? Okay, thank you.
So Joe, for the next application, I have a conflict of interest.
I understood you were going to
No.
recuse on that, so,
So I'm going to be departing the meeting early.
okay.
you next time.
You're welcome to sit in back.
What if
or-
we need your vote to adjourn?
You're going to be here for another 2 weeks then, I guess.
Yep. Okay, Scott, thanks.
Yep.
Again, it's not a problem if you want to sit in back, or if you need to leave, that's fine too. So. Good evening.
Hello. Brett Elias, resident at 6949 Valentine Road.
Okay. I understand you had some difficulty with some slopes.
Sure did, yeah.
So you're requesting the site plan approval for the soil restoration and stabilization of the parcel from work performed during a recent pool installation. As I understand it, and I've seen from a number of pictures, you cleared the slope uphill from the pool and then suffered the slings and arrows of a pretty heavy rainstorm and a lot of runoff without any real slope protection, and disturbed at least one neighbor, if not more, and out onto the road. So it's a challenge. I guess I'd kind of lean on our engineer a little bit to, I guess, put forward any comments you got right now, Wes.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we just issued a letter yesterday, late yesterday, on this project. So Mary Stebline, our stormwater management person, and she did the majority of this review. So I think there are two main points that she wanted to make generally, and then I can get into a bit of the details of our comment letter. I think it's going to require some ongoing monitoring to see how things get established out there. And then also, what was the other thing? So the maintenance of practices, all temporary erosion and sediment control practices need to be monitored for regular wear and accumulated soil and maintained in accordance with the New York State standards and specifications for erosion and sediment control. And then we wanted to see on the site plan drawing itself, inclusion of more specific locations for the recently placed and also any recently placed practices and any proposed practices such as erosion control blanket, check dams, silt sock, silt fence. So a little bit more detail on the site plan and then ongoing monitoring out there. We also made comment of some pipe outlets. There are several areas where pipes do not have visible or proposed outlet protection, and they could pose a potential future problem, such as pipes, such as the ones that we showed in the picture of our letter. The applicant may want to consider some terracing of the slope, and also future slope stability. While most slopes currently appear to be temporarily stabilized with hydromulch or blankets, monitoring should occur, again, more monitoring to address any areas that do not establish vegetation. There'll be we need to probably have them do some right-of-way clearing and stabilization after the vegetation has established throughout the site. The town's right-of-way will need to be cleaned to remove accumulated sediment. Happy to also defer to the town's stormwater management officer. He may be able to provide some background on this project and why it's before the board today.
Okay.
So, was that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually.
All right.
That's good. Keith, do you want to fill us in on anything that we might be missing at the moment?
Keith Maynard, Stormwater Program Manager. So Adam, myself, and Tom have been on site a few times. And I echo Mary's comments that, I'd just like to see some more specific direction for the applicant by way of the plans for exactly where he's putting check dams, exactly what material it's made of. I guess I have two concerns based on the amount of sediment that has left his property in multiple directions, adversely affecting town property and the neighbor's property, which he's gone to great lengths, as you can see from the pictures, to try and mitigate that since that has happened. But we want to make sure, A, it doesn't happen again. Even over the course of the winter, rain on snow events do a lot of damage, especially in sandy sites. But I'm also concerned, so these pictures were from like a 2-inch rainstorm. We've been known to get 6-inch rainstorms. So, that's a pretty steep hill that was wooded, that's no longer wooded. Again, he's got grass growing on it, which will help for minor rains, but I just want to make sure that there's a permanent solution as well as a very well dictated and documented temporary solution till he gets to the permanent solution.
So it sounds to me like, correct me if I'm wrong, but grassroots aren't going to hold the slope. It's a very
Not in my
full
opinion.
sand slope, correct?
Right.
So,
Granted, it's way better than it was.
Yeah.
Kudos to him, he's done a lot of work. It's a big hill and it's steep.
what would be the additional measures necessary to engage everything in that slope to keep it from sloughing or sliding, slumping, any number of,
There's a
Yeah.
whole lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of things you could engineer into
Right.
it, or plant material, or,
Mhm.
you know.
but even to support the slope until all that plant material gets engaged, you got to do something, I would
Right.
think. And I don't know whether that's soil spikes and other, I'll call it jute mesh type things or what. And, I mean, obviously he's done some of it already. So where do we go? I mean, how can we move this forward, I guess?
I think Mary and my thought process was there needs to be a more detailed design for,
Okay. So that's the direction to the applicant to come back before the board and to the town.
that's my thought, and I believe LaBella's as well.
Yeah, I think what might be helpful, even if the applicant's engineer, has the opportunity to just chat with Mary at our office just a little bit, just to understand what the expectation might be from the town engineer standpoint, and also with Keith, to depict these engineering practices on the plan
Yeah,
where the town would feel more comfortable.
okay.
And again, I guess from my seat, my number one priority is I don't want any more sediment coming off of that property onto any of the neighboring properties.
Is there a closed drainage system on Valentine?
No, it's a roadside swale, but in a couple of the rainstorms that weren't even related to that rainstorm, there was sediment multiple houses down the road.
Okay. In
In the roadside swale, yeah, it
road
runs
itself.
right down that driveway, which is
Yeah.
why, I think on the site, we emphasize check dams in multiple locations all the way down the driveway, and then, once that's dictated and put in place, Mary emphasized maintaining them.
Okay. This is a public hearing. The public clearly was affected by the events, and I want to open up the floor. Is there anyone here have any comments? Just hearing. I'd be glad to entertain any comments you might have if you do. So, otherwise, I'm going to close the public hearing. Hearing none.
Move.
Yeah, I'll second.
Joe moves. Ernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 4-0. So the public hearing portion is closed, and I think you have some direction from our
I
engineer
have
on.
I have a question, though, just to clarify things.
Go ahead.
Was this caused as a result of the installation of the pool?
It was related, yes.
Did you have a contractor put the pool in?
Yep.
You went in touch with the contractor to make things right?
I tried. There was a lot of drama with that. He said he didn't want to help me anymore, so I was kind of put in a hard spot. I was left with some time with just virgin soil. I had to wait on for some more scope to finish the pool, so I couldn't put vegetation down. So all summer long, I was sitting there staring at dirt and watching it come down the hill. So I was kind of put in a bad spot. I have a new contractor now, which is part of the reason why none of this stuff shows up on the plans anymore, because we've done so much in the last, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks. So a lot of these comments that LaBella put together can be addressed or shown on the plans. And I wish I had an engineer to speak on my behalf, but Scott cannot. But so he knows about the comments. He's going to be working on the drawings. He's been to my site. He's recommended things. I've had colleagues recommend things that I should be doing, and I've had a lot of contractors fill my ear with lots of ideas. So, and I think I'm playing ball, I'm doing everything I can. I just kind of want to just leave it the way it is and see what happens.
I don't think that's going to work.
I don't think you'll be able to assure that the town that this will be functional without some engineering backup to go with it, so. At least that's what I'm hearing from Keith and Wes. So, I guess the conversation will still be ongoing, and the details need to be nailed down to make sure that, protecting you as well, as much as the town, to make sure that your property is stabilized. So, if there's anyone else has any questions or
I
comments?
mean, I think this is the case where, both the applicant, homeowner, and the town have a common goal, right? To stabilize it, and sounds like you've done everything you can with the resources you have to try to make it right. I think just waiting to see what's gonna happen might not be in your best interest, so I would take the recommendation of the professionals and enhance, within reason, whatever they recommend.
I've done everything that Scott's recommended. What professional do I have to follow?
Scott and/or the town consultant.
Okay. Like I said, we don't have a
Well, I don't
draft.
plan on having a pool put in anytime soon, but who's the contractor? So I can stay away from it.
Well, I'm gonna,
I don't know if I'd put that on the record at the moment.
it's in
It's in the
the,
package.
Yeah.
the letter from the Conservation Board.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
wrote a nice article. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I presented to them last week or the week before. They seem to be in agreement with everything I've done. So,
So
So they were satisfied? I'm sorry, the Conservation Board, they're satisfied with where you're at today?
I believe that's how we left it, yes. But they wanted to see what you guys thought.
I guess those of us on the board are probably deferring to our experts, and that would be
Defer to Labella?
Labella and our stormwater management expert. So,
Okay.
I guess that we need to know that you guys are on the same page with
Sure.
the homeowner.
Yeah, I think I'm going to encourage that Labella to maybe reach out to the applicant's design professional, just to have a conversation, and maybe what we can do is circle in the town stormwater management officer on that phone call, too.
Yeah, okay, that would be good. But we're certainly sympathetic to your plight at the moment, and we don't want to dismiss it or, be hard about it, but we want to make sure that everything is in everyone's best interest and rectified. If you're well on your way, that's great. I think that conversation still needs to be had, and then we can address it at the next board meeting that you guys are ready to bring it forward to us, so, sorry. Best we can do at the moment.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Great.
Good.
Thank you. I think that's it for the evening.
Move to adjourn?
Joe made the motion.
Second.
Ernie seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried 4-0. Have a good evening, everyone.